Welcome to the Hamumu Halloween Home Horror Hoedown, the podcast where we watch scary movies so you don't have to.
From award-winning to completely unknown, we take them all way too seriously.
I'm your host, Mike Hummel.
And I'm your host, Solange Hummel.
Now, warning, we use a ghoulish number of spoilers, so watch the movies first.
Second warning, we don't know anything about anything, so don't take us seriously as we take these movies seriously. What movie did we watch this week, Mikey?
We watched Tao from 2018.
We did.
It's a love story between a girl and her robot.
Well, not her robot, someone else's robot.
Between her and someone else's
It's
robot.
a love triangle.
Triangle, I get it. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. So we have Julia.
We don't know she's Julia till like halfway through the movie, though.
Yes. Until then, she's just the abducted girl who's being held captive in the smart house, whose name is Tao.
Tao, a big AI that has a triangle face.
And who has been programmed and is controlled by Thomas Alexander Upton, who goes by Alex, but if you notice, has the initials TAU.
Clever.
Because he is the quintessential rich, white Reddit incel.
Yeah. He does not, well, he does leave his house, but he does not socially interact with other people.
No, he despises other people.
I know
And
the feeling.
So narcissistic.
Yeah.
There were moments where I was like, oh, this is what would have happened if the character in You, like the TV show and the book,
Yeah.
if he were really technologically savvy, this is where he would have gone.
Huh. Yeah, so this guy kidnaps people who won't be missed from the streets, puts a thing in their neck to like record their emotions, I guess, or something like that.
Eat their memories. I don't know. There was a thing happening.
Yeah, but I don't think it was taking anything from them. It was just recording stuff.
Yeah.
And he's using that to develop new AI that is emotionally driven, which seems like Tao had plenty of that on his own. I don't know.
I mean, for a computer program, Tao was terrible at following directions.
Yes. There was a lot of Tao behavior where it was like, that's not how a computer would do things, where he's like, you have 10 seconds to comply. And then she'd be like, what's that over there? And he'd be like, oh, yeah. It's totally distracted.
Or the number of times Tao was like, do what I'm telling you or I'll have to hurt you, but then never followed through on it.
No.
Like had been ordered
Bad
to do
parenting.
If this, then that, and knew it, but just never did it.
He did say Tao was erratic.
Tao was like the permissive mom who was always saying, you wait until your dad gets home.
Yes, until your giant triangular robot wakes up.
Yeah. So that was the other sort of character because it was really part of Tao. But Ares, the like discipliner, the transformer. Ares looks like some kind of weird industrial modern art in the foyer.
Yeah, just like a pyramid upside down stuck into the ground.
Yeah, like an obelisk kind of thing. And then when it's activated, transformers into a Get You robot.
Yeah, definitely a Get You robot.
Yeah.
Classic Get You robot.
That's all he did was try to get you.
Yeah, and he had these crazy long extendo grabbers. You know, those kind you can get where you squeeze the handle and it grabs at the other end?
Or like the kind that, who's the Spider-Man enemy?
Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
But not as twisty, just more of the straight kind of thing that you would use to get your... What do you use those for? Just to get you?
Yeah. They're just get you tools.
Yeah, they're getchas. And he'd run around trying to get you.
Yeah. He also was not real great at... I mean, he was better at his job than Tao was.
Yeah.
He was like Tao's Mr. Hyde kind of aspect, but also fairly ineffective because between the three of them, they couldn't manage to control or subdue this one skinny pickpocket girl.
Yeah, but she's not a bad pickpocket. They made sure at the beginning of the movie, So she goes around stealing stuff, and then she fences it and makes a little money. She goes home, puts it in her coffee can, and we see that she's saving up for music school. And so it's like, well, that makes it okay. And that factored into the plot 0% and was very unnecessary and was just very much like a, hey, let's have her let's say she's good by doing that, which it's not good.
Okay, so 2 things that I want to say because of that. First of all, is it better that she's pickpocketing so she can go to music school than pickpocketing like
for food,
right?
Yeah.
Or like insulin or like something,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, not that I want to...
Save her dying mother.
Right. Not that I want to suggest that music is not important, because it is. The arts are vital. But also...
I mean, it's
in the scheme of things.
It's just like everything else. It's you want money for yourself to do whatever it is you want to do, and she wants to do music school, which is it's not bad. It's just completely morally neutral. I mean, the stealing is morally gray, but the wanting to go to music school is not a high moral stand. But it was clear that that's what they were trying to say.
Yes,
they wanted to give us empathy for her,
right? And then the other thing I want to say is that the whole music school thing was a connection that she had with Tao, the robot house.
I know.
And it allowed this computer to have more empathy for her as well. Because Tao liked music.
It didn't feel like that entered into it. Like, she didn't know music stuff. She wasn't like, oh, this is Brahms' symphony, my friend. She had to grab a book and be like, okay, that came out in 1787.
Yeah, I think that was a flaw in the writing. Like, I think they could have made her, like, there was this whole thing about how she kept saying, well, I don't know things. I'm not a scholar. Like, she kept putting herself down as being like poor and uneducated and whatever, which I guess technically she was, but also maybe she wasn't in the area of music because it was something that was interesting to her. Yeah. And she would have gone out of her way to pickpocket things that gave her information about music. I don't know. It would have been better if she had been able to inform Tao herself and have more of an emotional connection rather than Tao being emotional and her just being like, well, it says in this book that this song is from this year. Like, that part was a missed opportunity for sure. Yeah, she liked teaching Tao things and they became good friends. I really liked that, but there was a part of me that's like, what did Alex program into this house that made it so easy for her to just be like, no, I have a name and you have a name, so we're both people, and now we're gonna create an alliance against the thing you think is the most important thing in the world and is supposed to be listened to at all costs. Yeah, like, it was pretty easy to turn that off. Yeah. But I think they kind of set that up with Tao is erratic when you give him wrong information or something to that effect. And it sort of worked. Like, you couldn't really tell how he was going to do things. And, he wanted him to be obedient, but instead he was eager to learn things and perfectly willing to make deals or whatever to learn things. And he liked making friends. Yeah. Well, and I think that, like, that to me was one of the most important aspects of the movie, is that they did make this robot house so human, in the sense that if given the opportunity between learning new things and following directions, like, it was a no-brainer for Tao. Yeah. Every time it decided, I want to know the thing. And, here we have the authoritarian master in Alex, who's like, uses pain and fear and all of that to control the house. And then along comes this other person who even remotely and inauthentically treats Tao with some kind of respect. And immediately Tao is like, all of my loyalty goes to you to whatever extent I control. Because the other guy was such a beanbag. He really was. He was a total beanbag. We're gonna make that a new thing. Make that a thing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then it carries on to, like, the interest in music and the arts and, like, the world and all of those things, wanting to explore all of these different creative outlets. And then later, even the idea that Tao was like, I will sacrifice myself to protect this other person who I love. And then vice versa. Like, I sort of thought that Julia was just going to be like, yep, thanks, bye. Like, I'm out. You're still a robot house. But, you know, in typical human form, she had totally anthropomorphized this robot. And now
she
he's her best
came
buddy.
back to rescue her robot friend.
Yeah.
That was a touching moment.
Yeah, it was.
And that is why I say I don't think this is a horror movie. Like at the beginning, you've definitely got we're all trapped here by a crazy man who's experimenting on us and installing things in our heads. And, you know, it's scary. But it's really more of like a sci-fi story. Just, you know, like, hey, this is a robot and this is what it's like when robots start to think, something very relevant for us today.
Yes.
And, you know, how do we deal with that? And
I agree. It didn't feel very horror. It was very sci-fi. It was very like, I don't know. There are probably people out there who know more that are going to who would argue with this, but it felt very Isaac Asimov to me. Like it, you know, in that delving into what if AI sort of became more human and had emotions and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But everything about it, like, this is the most hopeful movie I've seen in a very long time. like I finished watching this movie and I was like, I feel better.
ChatGPT isn't going to kill us.
Oh, this is lovely. I'm so like, yeah, I feel better about the world and humanity in general.
Yeah, because she risked her life to save her robot friend, who in turn tried to save her.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah, they like were both willing to sacrifice each other to save the other. And in the end, the bad guy got totally pancaked.
Yeah.
And
with a Wilhelm scream.
Yes, you like those. Mm-hmm. And then they got to like waltz off into the sunset together.
Literally, yeah.
Drone in hand.
Drone in hand, because Tao wanted to know about the world outside the house, and she took the one drone that had a bit of Tao left in it and showed it the world. Mm-hmm. Speaking of drones, there was a squadron of teeny tiny flying Roombas that would go around and clean everything. Wonderful.
I liked that. I questioned some of the like efficiency of the patterns that they
Sure.
Like it sort of felt like when they were cleaning up that blood that they were doing it more to create fun patterns in the blood than to clean it up efficiently.
That really fits Tao, though. That like Tao would be like, this is artistic and I'm having fun.
Yeah.
It'll get done eventually.
Yeah. Tao actually had a lot of artistry. Like Tao was a cook, was like way into music, clearly like understood some artistic elements.
Yeah, well, he said he wrote his own symphony that he wanted to hide away and he never really got to.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. Like I was feeling like that was going to be a sad moment for him when he tried to download his symphony into Julia the human. And like, here, keep this for me. And then later she's like trying to recreate it. And he's like, what? This is completely corrupted. This file has been so corrupted. Like, what happened?
Human memory is not very accurate.
No. But it was sweet that Tao didn't understand the differences between them.
Yeah, because they're both persons.
Yeah. So when I thought this was a horror movie, like when I was expecting it to become a horror movie, what I thought was going to happen, because Alex keeps talking to these like holograph outsiders, having these
the
meetings.
board.
Yes. Having all these meetings, and he keeps mentioning, like, they're like, when will it be done? When will it be ready? I assume to put on the market and sell for the price of a Tesla.
Yes. And when will it dance and kill someone with a paper cutter?
They kept asking him that. He kept saying the final extraction is in process or something like that. And I'm like, oh, this is all of this. It's not that Tao is unpredictable and not following the rules. It's that we don't know what the rules are that Tao is supposed to be following, because this is all a fake like setup, and everything she's teaching Tao is helping Alex like develop this program more
'cause
thoroughly.
every day he would leave in the morning, and then Tao would try to get her to do tasks, and instead she'd sort of interact.
Right.
And
so easily. And I'm like, I don't know. This feels
That's
like
a
a
good
setup.
angle.
This feels like a setup. And then at
Yeah.
some point she was going to be like, okay, Tao's going to help me escape now. And then he'd be like, the final extraction is complete.
Yeah.
And that would have been a horror movie ending.
There was definitely a point, I don't remember what was happening, but kind of early on where I was like, oh, I don't think this is really happening. I think this is, like the chip in her neck is, making,
Ooh, yeah.
putting her in some virtual world. But no, that didn't happen.
And like that somehow he needed all of those like memories or whatever from her to be into the computer, and that the downloading part or the chip part wasn't working the way he wanted it to, and he needed it to be more of a like human interface kind of upload. There was so much potential there, and then instead she just cut off his hand and used it to escape.
Which led to a unique element I have never seen before in a movie.
That was pretty cool, actually.
So he had handprint sensors around, and so she was using his severed hand to open them, and it worked at first, but then it was like heat signature error because it wasn't staying warm.
And so here she is with this severed hand trying to escape, and she's having to like blow on it and like rub it against her clothes and like try to heat it up.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It was like an intriguing touch of realism.
Yeah.
But absurd realism? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Although it did make me realize, like, every time someone has something that they're either really trying to protect, like something that everyone wants to steal from them, or they're trying to contain someone who's trying to escape, there's always a handprint lock. And really, that is just extra motivation for someone to cut your hand off.
Yeah, don't give them a reason. Or, when it's an eye print and you're like,
right?
Don't have any spoons around.
Right?
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's upsetting. It's upsetting. Although maybe the lesson to take away is don't lock people up in your robot house.
Yeah, or anywhere else. Just don't lock people
anywhere?
up.
Oh, that's a very restrictive rule.
It's pretty restrictive, yeah. If it doesn't feel like you're kind of locked up in a cage with that rule.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
We haven't talked yet about the fact that when Julia gets kidnapped and wakes up, finds herself in a cage, she's not the only human in that cage.
No, she got two little buddies.
Subject 1 and Subject 2 are there as well.
She's Subject 3. Later we discover there have been 11 subjects. Was he getting more after her? No, clearly not. Because the thing didn't work anymore.
Maybe they were actually Subjects 4 and 5 and he was counting down from 11.
How did he know?
It feels like like there's a little error there in the writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she should have been like Subject 11. Or if there were 11 more, she should have been Subject 12.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Seems like a problem.
Anyway, there were 2 other humans there. And one has to presume, given how long she was kept alive and like all of the things that were done with and to her, one has to presume that they had been alive for a while.
Yeah.
In captivity. And then she shows up, and within 24 hours, they have both died horrific deaths.
Yeah. And they kept going, no, let's not try this. This is too risky. And she's like, no, we're going to break out of here, and gets them both killed.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the one lady was pretty, like, not there. Like, she had been tortured to the point of her brain wasn't really there anymore.
She was not great.
No. So I don't think they were like having a happy life.
No.
But they were alive.
She put an end to that. I mean, it wasn't really her that did it. It was the robot with the gotcha claws. But
would the robot with the gotcha claws have gone after them if she hadn't been like causing trouble?
No,
I don't know.
She definitely caused the trouble. But, that becomes a question. Like, you shouldn't be put in a cage, right? We just said that.
I mean, theoretically, that's what you're telling me.
So really, getting out of a cage isn't bad. It's the person who does the getcha claws at you that's bad.
It just felt like she didn't have a lot of concern about how her plans were going to impact these other humans.
And she didn't listen at all to anything they were like. He was like, "Oh, there's sparks. Don't let that get near the gas line." And she's like, "What a good idea.
Let's blow everything up." And he's like, "What? Wait, what?"
Yeah. And that's kind of the flow of the movie, is giving ideas into people. We'll say people, and those ideas making them do crazy things.
Yeah.
Ratings.
My rating may be a little bit of a cheat because, as we said earlier, this isn't really a horror film. This is really just a sci-fi, a mildly futuristic sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi thriller.
Yes. And that is right in my wheelhouse. Like when we go into horror, we're always just adjacent to what my favorite movies are. And we've just stepped right into, this is what I like to watch. So I feel like my score is going to be inflated some because of that. And possibly also inflated some because it left me feeling hopeful and like
that's what
refreshed
this movie did. Yeah.
And like pleased.
If that's the effect this movie had, then that's the rating this movie gets.
Okay. Well, so because of that, and because I truly, like, we didn't talk a lot about like the artistry of the movie or the acting or any of those things, but it was captivating. Like, I enjoyed all of it. I was not pulled out by any weirdness or lack of quality in any particular area.
Yeah, it was solidly done.
It probably wasn't like the best movie ever made, but it was very solid and it was very enjoyable. The girl who plays Julia was fantastic. And actually, the guy who played Alex was pretty good too. And there were some very artistic things, like how in the beginning, in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, there were maybe 3 lines of dialogue. Like the point where she, fences the stuff that she had stolen, and they have a little back and forth about like, this is it. And if you want more money, steal better stuff. And like, there's a little exchange. But aside from that, like, she's out doing her pickpocketing in the nightlife without any dialogue. And then she wakes up in the cage and they all have things on their mouths. Like,
yeah, they're masked up for COVID.
Yes, it did look like that. But, they're all like, they're not supposed to be talking. So they're just like,
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting that there was no dialogue for a very long time. You don't find that a lot in movies. So really, I am going to like very easily and happily give this movie 4.5 finger smudges out of 5.
We'll clean those up fast.
Or not. Be a rebel.
Wow. Okay. I too found it solid and enjoyable. And, I think the only thing is, anytime you're going to tell a story about AI and have it, talking to people, and it's always like wrong. This will never happen in real life, this story, because when you talk to it and you're like, you're in this house, and you draw a traditional house shape, and there's ground outside and trees grow from it. Like, that's all so much too complicated to actually for it to understand. And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, that could never work out. So those kind of things are tricky. AI
that's clearly not connected to, like, if your AI is connected to the internet and then can like go and like, what does ground mean, and go and like learn all the things. But this AI was not connected.
Yeah, it was cut off from everything. It's impossible, but that's whatever. It's just Hollywood fun times. So, I thought it was fun, and it was enjoyable for them to have this, relationship where they got to like each other and be friends. And the turning point was indeed where she was about to legitimately escape, and then she heard that Alex was torturing the Tao again, and so she came running back. That was pretty cool. So I give this 4 smudged fingerprints out of 5. I think it's pretty good and fun.
And fun. Something about what you were saying reminded me of how the existential crisis that Tao experienced when he learned what killing was.
Yes, he
And
freaked out.
That he had been doing that, and that she explained it to him by saying, you erased them, because he understood how horrible he felt when Alex erased his memories as punishment. And she's like, you erased them, and he just like lost it.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. I mean, not that cool that he was suffering,
yeah,
but like
thanks.
it was a
That's
learning
nice.
moment that was interesting.
Yeah.
Fight the horror of a world gone mad.
So, when I watch these movies, I often like will pick out a line or two where I'm like, oh, that's the point of the movie, is that one sentence that somebody said. And often that's the thing that I try to tie to the political tip. And I'm not sure how to tie today's sentence to a political tip like succinctly, but there was an exchange that Tao and Julia had where Tao saying, oh, but you listen to your creators because they created you. Like you do what they told you to do because they created you. And she says, they kept me alive. I created me. And I was like, ooh, woo. Yes, girl. And then, said things like, we became our own creators. I choose to be this. It was really a message about picking what you are going to believe and what kind of person you are going to be. And maybe that goes back to the beginning where we learned about how she was pickpocketing, not so she could get money to buy drugs or, do whatever vice-like things, all the things that we consider judgmental, negative things. But that she was doing it to try to better herself. I guess that's the thing. It's not really a tip so much as like, watch this movie and then think about
feel hope.
Yes, feel hope and feel that sense of like, I created me. I am choosing who I am going to be, particularly in the face of like the onslaught of disrespect and aggression that seems to be coming from certain directions, and just hold on to that thing of what it is you're trying to accomplish and who it is you want to be, and not let those other things change that. And then Tao asked the question, which I think is always a good question for people to be considering and asking in that conversation. He asked, for what purpose do we create ourselves? So I guess I will leave our listeners with that question. For what purpose are you creating yourself? So there we go.
So while you ponder that, we will ponder what it means for a movie to be horror, and we will correctly watch one next week.
Yes. I already have an idea of what we're watching next week, and it is, we've gone from this one, which I kind of felt was going to be like mainstream horror and didn't even turn out to be that. The next one, I think, is going to be like fringe horror. Like the kind of horror that even horror fans might not want to watch.
Oh, good.
Yay.
It's going to blow our underwear.
We have to stop saying that.
I don't like it. I don't think we should say it anymore at all. So we'll see you all next week with our underwear still on.
Bye, everybody. Don't forget to call your elected representatives.
I went right to the title, very first sound.
I think you should do it again because I think I was talking when you started.
I don't need to do it.
No, do it again because I like that beginning.
Well, you did.
Yes.
Tau. You like that beginning?
I do like that beginning. Okay, so we're going to talk about Tao from 2018.
This is not a good intro. No.
None of our intros are good intros.
This is not a good intro.